another confession. Everyone's got their chains to break. Where you born to resist? Someone taking your faith. It's real. The pain you feel. The life, the love you die to heal.
G'day guys, my name's Dave and welcome to another Guitar Zero Hero song tutorial. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to play Best of You by the Foo Fighters. For the basics of this song, you'll just need a guitar in standard tuning and you won't need a capo. Now, all the tones that you hear in this lesson are recorded using the Boss Katana 100 Mark II. I'll leave a link to the tone patch in the description below if you want to check that out. Now, if you want to master your chords back to front, then be sure to head over to guitarzerotohero.com to pick up my free guitar ebook. Or if you want to improve any guitar in general, then sign up to Guitar Zero to Hero Premium, which is my complete step-by-step guitar course. All right, let's jump into the lesson. Okay, so I'm going to start by showing you all the rhythm guitar parts, and I'm going to teach you this on the acoustic guitar because it sounds great on the acoustic, but note that in the playthrough at the end of this lesson, I will be using the electric guitar. If you want to learn the lead guitar parts, I teach that later in the video, so you can skip to that in the timestamps below. Now, the great thing about the rhythm of this song is that it's really quite simple. The trickiest part is just the speed of some of the strumming patterns. But in terms of the chord shapes, there's just 4 chord shapes that we need to learn for the whole song. So let's start with verse number 1 and 2. So we're going to start with a C sharp minor 7. Now this is a beautiful chord shape, sounds beautiful. So your ring finger will go on the 4th fret of the 5th string, pinky finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, and index finger goes onto the 2nd fret of the 4th string. And you want to leave the 2nd and 1st strings open. We're just strumming from the 5th string onwards. If you want to mute that 6th string, you can just use your free middle finger to lightly touch that string. So that's C sharp minor 7, beautiful sounding chord. Our next chord is an A sus2. So from this shape, we're just going to lift our ring finger and the 5th string will be an open 5th string. So that's our A sus2. Now the strumming pattern here is going to be really simple for verse 1 and verse 2. It's just all down strums at 8th notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... But one thing that we want to add to this strumming pattern is accents on certain strums. And that will give it more dynamic and feel. You'll need to accent the highlighted strums below. So on the 1 beat, end beat after the 2 and the 4 beat. And when I say accent, you'll just strum the chord harder. And for the rest of the strums, you can just focus more on the bass notes of the chord. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So that's a typical strumming pattern. I'm going to use that throughout this whole verse. So we're going to play that twice for the C sharp minor 7 and twice for the A sus2. Now that first line of chords is repeated through twice, and then we get to the second line of chords. So we're going to go to a B sus4. So from our A sus2 shape, you just put your pinky finger on the 4th fret of the 4th string and index finger goes to the 2nd fret of the 5th string. And again, we're strumming from the 5th string onwards. We're going to play that for 2 strumming patterns and then back to our A sus2 for 2 strumming patterns. And that's it for verse 1 and 2, which sounds like this. Obviously, it's a lot faster in the actual recording, but I would recommend that you just start slow, perfecting the accents, and then build up in speed, using a metronome to keep yourself accountable. Next, we get to chorus number 1, which is just 1 line of chords. So we start with our C sharp minor 7 for 1 strumming pattern, then we go to our B sus4 for 1 strumming pattern, and then A sus2 for 2 strumming patterns. And that just repeats again and again. So chorus 1. After chorus 1, we have verse 2, which we've already learnt. Then we get to chorus 2. Now chorus 2 slightly differs from chorus 1. Instead of playing out A sus2 for 2 strumming patterns, for the final bar we're going to go to an F sharp 11, which looks like this. So it's basically the same as an F major bar chord. Then we shift everything up 1 fret, and then you're lifting your index finger. It's not barring the fret, only hitting the 2nd fret of the 6th string. So you're letting the open B and E strings ring out. So that's our F sharp 11. Now another thing changes here in chorus 2, and that's the accenting of the strumming pattern. So we're still doing the all down strum strumming pattern, but we're going to accent on every beat. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And by accenting the strumming pattern this way, we're following the drum beat more closely. So chorus 2 will sound like this. Next we get to the solo section. It's basically the same as the verse chords that we've already learnt, except that second line of chords is played through twice, not just once. We're also mixing up our strumming patterns here, and this is where things get a little tricky, especially with the speed, but if you take it slow, you should be able to get it. I want to note as well that you can just use the basic strumming pattern, the all down strums at 8th notes if you want to. If these strumming patterns I'm about to teach you are too tricky, then you can just default to the really simple all down strums. So for the first line of chords, we're going to play a strumming pattern that goes like this. Down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up. And in succession, down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up. So we're going to play that once for each chord, and the first line of chords will just sound like this. Now for the second line of chords, we go to our B sus4 and then our A sus2. For the first 3 bars, the strumming pattern remains the same. So what we've been playing in that first line of chords. The final bar though differs a tiny bit. So with this final A sus2, we're going to go down, down, up, down, down, mute, 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 up. Now all the mutes are basically down strums. Now to mute, basically just lift your fretting hand off the chord and rest all your fingers across the strings so that you have that mute. Down, down, up, down, down, mute, 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 up. So you just temporarily mute the strings, and then on that final up strum, fret again to get that up strum. So the first time we play the second line of chords will sound like this. Now the second time we play this line of chords, the first B sus is our standard strumming pattern. But the second time we play it, we're going to have another strumming variation. So it's going to go down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up. And again, there's muted strums here. So the muted strums I've highlighted, and basically from the B sus2, you just temporarily lift your fretting hand so that you can get those mutes down. So down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up. And then when we go to our A sus2, we're just playing 2 normal strumming patterns. So the second time round that we play the second line of chords, that's it for the solo section. So the strumming patterns are the trickiest part here, and just remembering where those accents and those mutes go. But altogether, the solo section. Again, be sure to take this section slow, learn it at a slow speed, and make sure you get those accents right, and then, only then, move up to full speed when you are comfortable with that rhythm. So after the solo section, there's another chorus, which we've already learnt, and after that third chorus, there's a third verse, which is the same chords as the solo section, but again, we're mixing up the strumming pattern here. So for the first line of chords, the C sharp minor 7 to the A sus2, we're going to play a strumming pattern that just goes like this. Down, down, up, down, up. So the first line of chords. And that's repeated through twice. Now the second line of chords, when we go to the B sus4 and to the A sus2, we're just going to play an all down strum strumming pattern. So So it's just a build up, and there's no real accenting here. All the strums are more or less at that same intensity, but just gradually building up. Okay, the final part of rhythm that we need to learn is the outro. This is again rhythmically quite challenging, but if you break it down, it's not too difficult. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna play an E octave here. So index finger on the 12th fret of the 6th string, and pinky finger on the 14th fret of the 4th string. Now with your index finger, as you're hitting that 6th string, rest it across all the other strings, fret down, you're just lightly touching all the other strings, so that when you strum this octave, only those two notes will ring out. So we're going to hit that and slide down, and then we have an up-down strum, but that's muted. Now to mute, we're literally just resting our fingers across the strings. So down, up, down. On the end beat after the 2, we do another strum on this 12th fret and slide out. And then after that, on the 3 beat, we just do a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up at 16th notes, all muted. All right. So the highlighted strums you see down here are muted strums. And the 2 down strums are where we hit the 12th fret octave and slide out. Down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And in succession. Now that's repeated through 6 times. The 7th time we play this, the first half is identical. So we have the down, up, down, down. But the second half from the 3 beat is different. We have 8th note triplets here. So for every beat, there's 3 strums. So it's triplet and then triplet. So 6 down strums, but you can break this up into groups of 3 in terms of the beat. So click, click. This will feel a little bit awkward because you're doing an up strum on the down beat, but this matches that drum fill perfectly. So down, up, down, triplet, triplet. So that just occurs on the 7th time. And one more time. And for the final bar, we're just doing the 2 slides. So down, up, down. And that's the end of the song. So those are all the rhythm parts to this song. And again, in the playthrough at the end of this lesson, I'll be playing all of that on the electric guitar, but it sounds just as cool on the acoustic guitar as well if you want to do your own stripped back version. Okay, so now I'm going to teach you all the lead guitar parts. But basically, to start off, during the first verse for the lead guitar, we're going to have just a crunch tone. So it's not super heavy, just a little bit of gain. So the grit that you hear is just coming from the amp itself. It's not an external pedal or anything. So we're just pushing the gain a little bit to get that slight distortion and breakup. So I'm going to use that tone for all of the rhythm guitars, but it's also used for the first little bit of lead guitar in the first verse. So this is one line of tab here, which occurs at the end of verse number 1. And we're going to start with our B sus4 chord shape. We're going to pluck the 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 1st string, hold that out, and then end with the open 2nd string. So that will sound like this. You're going to play that twice, and then we're going to go to our A sus2 shape. So just keep your pinky finger where it is and put your index finger on that 2nd fret of the 4th string. And we're going to play the exact same picking pattern. And that's it for the lead guitar in verse number 1. Now when we get to the chorus, we're going to play our C sharp minor 7s. So that shape looks like this. and we're going to play the exact same picking pattern. We're going to stick with the same tone as well. So, and then one picking pattern on the B sus4, and then two picking patterns on the A sus2. So that's the first line of tab for the chorus 1 lead. That first line of tab is played through twice, and the second line of tab is almost the same, except for the final bar, we're just strumming that A sus2 and holding it out. So chorus 1 in total. Now at this point we get to verse 2, and we're gonna beef things up a little bit. So I've got a high gain amp here, a lead amp, and I've boosted the gain, so that's where the distortion's coming from, and a little bit of reverb. So for verse 2 lead, we have 3 lines of tab here. So we're going to start with our ring finger here on the 6th fret of the 3rd string, and we're just focusing on hitting the 3rd and 2nd strings. You just want to focus on those 2 strings. If you happen to hit the 1st string, that's okay as well. But we're just playing this all at 8th notes with downstrokes. So 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're just going to shift our ring finger up to the 9th fret and do the same, but for the final 3 strums, we're going to go up to the 11th fret. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the first line of tab. The second line of tab is almost the same, except we don't move up to that 11th fret. For the third line of tab, we go down to the 8th fret. We're going to strum this 6 times. 1 and 2 and 3. And on the 4 beat, we go down to the 6th fret, and then end beat after the 4 down to the 4th fret. So, and then for the next bar, we continue on with this 4th fret. And then for the last 2 bars, we go back up to the 9th fret and just continuously hit that. So it's pretty straightforward, and verse 2 lead would sound like this. Next we get to the chorus 2 lead, which is also the same as chorus 3 lead, and we're going to be playing a lot of octaves here. So we're going to start with an octave on the 4th and 6th fret, so index finger on the 4th fret of the 5th string, pinky finger on the 6th fret of the 3rd string. And you want to keep all the other strings muted. So to do that, just rest your index finger across all the other strings. Now don't fret down, just lightly touch all the other strings as you're fretting down that 4th fret of the 5th string. And that way when you strum all the strings, only those 2 remain. So we're going to be strumming this at 8th notes again for 1 full bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we move this same shape up 2 frets, strum for 1 full bar. Move this up 1 fret, so 7th and 9th, strum this for a full bar. And then move this up 2 frets and play this for 1 bar. So the first line of tab. That first line of tab is repeated through twice. Then we go up to the 11th and 13th fret octave. Play that for 1 bar. Then up to the 14th and 16th octave for 1 bar. Up to the 16th and 18th. And down to the 13th and 15th for 1 full bar. So the second line of tab. The third line of tab is almost the same, except for the final bar, instead of going down to our 13th and 15th fret octave, we just stay on the 16th and 18th fret octave. So that's it for chorus 2 and 3 lead. which sounds like this in total. I'm just going to play the first line of tab through once, but note that in the song you have to play that first line of tab through twice. Okay, so next we get to the solo, which is just more octaves. So we're going to start with this 11th and 13th fret octave. Now we're going to be strumming at 16th notes. So this strumming is quite quick. At full speed it sounds like this. But you will need to just practice this slowly. It is a little tricky if you're not really used to strumming this fast. A good way to kind of keep track of where you are is to break things up into groups of fours. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You can just accent on the beat. So we're just going to continuously be strumming this 13th fret for a full bar. So, and then for the second bar, we're going to strum this 6 times. So 1, 2, and then move up to the 14th and 16th for 4 strums, and 3, and then back down to the 11th and 13th fret for 4 more strums, and 4, and then back up to the 14th and 16th for the last 2 strums. So this second bar, and that first line of tab in total. For the next line of tab, we go up to the 16th and 18th fret for 6 strums, and then back down to the 14th fret octave for the rest of this bar and for the entire next bar. So the second line of tab, the third line of tab is identical to the first line of tab, and the fourth line of tab is just the 16th and 18th fret octave played for 2 full bars. So this is one of the trickier parts of this song in terms of the lead, but it will sound like this. Next we get to the bridge, which has more octaves and some more complicated strumming. So we're going to start with this 9th fret octave. We're going to strum this with a down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, down, down. Now on the last 2 down strums, we're going to slide down to the 7th and 9th fret octave, and then down to the 6th and 8th fret octave. So down, down, up, down, 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 down. And one more time. The second bar is the 6th and 8th fret octave, just played for that full strumming pattern. And then we go up to the 11th and 13th fret octave with the same strumming pattern. The last 2 down strums, we move down to 9th and 11th and 7th and 9th fret octave. So the third bar. And for this final bar, we're going to stay on the 7th and 9th fret octave, and we're going to play a down, 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 mute, mute, up. And all the mutes are down strums. So this is a little bit tricky, but again. And that's it for the first line of tab, which will sound like this. For the second line of tab, the first bar is identical. For the second bar in the second line of tab, on the 6th and 8th fret octave, we're going to play a down, down, up, down, down, and then a down, up, down, up, down, all muted, and then the final up strum is hitting that octave, so down, 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 up, down, up, down. And then the third bar is identical to the third bar in the first line of tab. For the fourth bar, we're not playing anything. We're actually going to do a pick slide. So to do a pick slide, you take the long edge of the pick and you're just basically going to scratch that down the side of your top string. And you do that and you get a really cool sort of pick slide sound like that. So that's just going to occur on the 4 beat. So the second line of tab will sound like this. After that, we have chorus 3, which is the same as chorus 2 lead. Then for verse number 3, it starts off with one guitar and then the lead guitar comes in halfway through. We're going to play a shape like this, so 4th fret of the 3rd string and 7th fret of the 2nd string. We're going to strike this at 8th notes for 2 bars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Down to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. We're just focusing on the 3rd and 2nd strings. We're just focusing on that for 2 bars. The second line of tab is almost identical except for the final bar. We hit that and pause. So that's it for the lead in verse number 3. Next we have chorus number 4, which is just 2 lines of tab. The first line of tab is identical to the first line of tab in the other choruses, and then the second line of tab is identical to the final line of tab in the other choruses. So we've already learnt those parts. The final thing to learn is the outro, which is just a whole bunch of bends. So we're going to start with the 9th fret of the 2nd string and 11th fret of the 3rd string. We're going to hit these 2 strings, but bend up that 3rd string until it matches the pitch of the 2nd string. And we're going to do that twice. We're going to play that for 4 bars. And then for the 5th bar, we're going to go up to 9th fret and 12th fret. And we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to play that for 2 bars, and then for the 7th bar, we shift this exact shape up 3 frets, so 12th and 15th, and we play this for 2 bars. And that's all the lead guitar for this song. So now I'll be doing a full playthrough of the song, and I'll have a vocal track on top for some context. Feel free to play this back as many times as you'd like to practice, play along to, and see how you go.
I've got another confession. Everyone's got their chains to break. Won't be where you're born to resist, to be abused. Someone getting the best, the best, the best, the best of you. Were you born to resist? I swear I'll never give in. I refuse. Is someone getting the best, the best, the best, the best of you? Is someone getting the best, the best, the best, the best of you? Is someone taking your faith? It's real, the pain you feel. You trust, you must confess. Is someone getting the best, the best, the best, the best of you? Got their chains to break, holding you. Were you born to resist, to be abused? Is someone getting the best, the best, the best, the best of you? Is someone getting the best, the best, the best, the best of you? I'm going on to someone new. I needed someone to have my hand without chains. You gave me something that I didn't have, but I was the weak to defend, too strong to lose. My heart is under arrest again, but I break loose. My head is giving me life or death, but I can't choose. I swear I'll never give in. I refuse. Is someone getting the best, the best, the best, the best of you? Is someone getting the best, the best, the best, the best of you? Has someone taken your faith? It's real, the pain you feel. You trust, you must confess. Is someone getting the best, the best, the best, the best of you? Has someone taken your faith? It's real, the pain you feel. The life, the love you died to heal. The hope that starts, the broken hearts, the trust you must confess. Is someone getting the best, the best, the best, the best of you? Is someone getting the best, the best, the best, the best of you? I've got another confession, my friend. I'm no fool. I'm getting tired of starting again somewhere new. Were you born to resist? Taking
Thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this lesson, then I know you'll absolutely love these other lessons too. So hit the link here. Or if you want to grab a copy of my free guitar ebook, then head over to guitarzerotohero.com or click the link here. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time on Guitar Zero to Hero. Cheers.